In our last video, we were announcing this one, and we said that we would make it more lighthearted and talk about just Korea in general. And I think I might get let off the leash here and still have some fun. But as we began researching this piece, I think we're probably going to let you down
South Korea,
one last time.
you are shit out of luck.
This is really bad.
Shit out
This
of
is
luck.
going to be a downer. This is still a downer. This is really rough.
So,
Gallows humor did not quite do it.
So welcome to the third ever Human podcast, where we explore pretty much the darkest subjects on the planet because we believe in restoration and rehabilitation. So we start to analyze human behavior. I'm your host, Jessica Lee, a terrible person who is on the path of recovery.
And I am her co-host, Ben Prince, and my story will be coming later.
So we are going to dive into South Korea.
In our last piece about Kim Soo-hyun, we also talked about how the values placed on a human life in Korea are largely dependent on their ability to perform economically. We threw around terms like neoliberal capitalist society, and even we don't want to hear us unpack that. As many of you know, it's served the country well. They went from a third world country to an economic powerhouse in 50 years, which is unheard of. But there are consequences from a turn like that, and we're going to take you on a tour of them today. We're going to make this one personal.
Yes, very much so. A lot of today, I believe, is kind of personal.
Okay.
Maybe. Slightly.
I have a few anecdotes I'd like to talk about. Yeah, I guess it is.
So we're going to share some stats with you guys to explain why we believe South Korea is the most narcissistic country.
There we go. The thesis we have is that South Korea, second only probably to North Korea, is the largest population of narcissists. It's the biggest generational pathology on the planet.
Yeah.
And you could see this in not just the fact that it leads the world in plastic surgery, where 1 in 5 women get the procedures done, where you need a headshot just to work at a coffee shop. Or we could talk about the media industry and the K-pop. We could talk about religion and cults. And you can't prove this, but there's really good evidence that South Korea per capita has the most cults in the world. There are, depending on the estimate, 60 or 70 messianic religions where someone says they have the direct word of God. I kind of want to put them all in a room and watch them forced to interact with each other, but there's something wired here where they center themselves as the religious center of the world. You don't get any more narcissistic than that. And that alone would be a good argument. I don't want to go into it too deeply here for now, but here's a more detailed breakdown. There are a number of factors. It is difficult to rank countries by narcissism, but I'm going to fucking try. Some research suggests that individualistic cultures and countries with higher levels of perceived corruption, if that rings any bells, can be associated with higher levels of narcissism, while countries with more hierarchical cultural systems also exhibit higher narcissism scores.
Yeah, because that makes a lot of sense for the need to dominate. So you're going to have a high level of corruption, but people trying to get to the top. And then you said hierarchy? Yeah.
So a quick 5 or 6 factors that could influence narcissism across countries. You have individualism versus collectivism. Cultures that emphasize the individual achievement and independence, i.e. individualistic stuff, they tend to have higher narcissism scores compared to cultures that prioritize group harmony and interdependence. Group-oriented thinking rather than the individual. The West has a lot more individual, for example.
Yeah.
But Korea in the East has the most individualized culture in the world.
Individualized?
Yes, they emphasize the individual.
Korea?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I thought it was the homogenous.
You're the one throwing around neoliberal capitalist societies.
Yeah, that is true. But do you know what the really, really weird thing is?
Oh, I'm getting there. Don't worry. If you're confused about about the group thing, we're getting there.
Okay, because
economic success. We can go. Here's some softballs for you. Economic success. Research suggests that wealthier individuals are also higher in narcissism. This can extend to countries with greater economic success. Perceived corruptions. Countries with lower scores on perceived public sector corruption have higher mean narcissism scores. I would love to talk about your former president. We'll leave that for now. Social development. Countries with higher social development scores may have lower mean narcissism scores. National narcissism. There's evidence suggesting a link between national narcissism and support for populist leaders and parties. There's plenty of factors that can influence narcissism across countries. Hierarchy versus egalitarianism. Countries with more embedded and hierarchical cultural systems may be associated with higher levels of narcissism.
Yeah.
Combine that with the individualist mindset versus the collectivist. That's where they will. So they'll emphasize a collectivist idea. Do this for the group, but only when it's in their interest. Really, it's just whoever's in charge.
I was literally just going to say that.
Chebar, what is it?
Chebar.
Yeah.
What about
these entrenched families? The idea that power is
it. Chebars kind
They'll
of move like
emphasize
royals,
Yeah,
like
I'm
a
sure.
royalty.
They'll emphasize hierarchy all day.
For those who don't know, Chebar in Korean is.
For those who are new to this term, Jaebols are massive, mostly family-run business conglomerates that dominate South Korea's economy.
But it's really interesting what you're saying about the collective mindset versus the individual mindset. Because if you actually talk to Korean people, which I have a lot, asking about this very thing, they actually believe that they are more centered on collectivism. So it's fascinating to see the thinking patterns that they have.
I mean, maybe North Korea.
There needs to be, like you're saying, it's based on a hierarchical system. But let me give you an interesting story. If you are in a company and you go out to like a company lunch or a company dinner, what should I use as food comparison that would make sense for Americans?
What's spaghetti?
It's jampong and jjajangmyeon. May I just post pictures of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's noodle dishes in Korea called jampong and jjajangmyeon, which is probably akin to pizza, how frequently they are ordered and eaten as fast food.
Noodle-based comfort food.
Yes. But when you go out to a company dinner or a company lunch and you go with your boss, the boss says, you can order whatever you guys want to on the menu, but whatever the boss orders, everyone orders it. And if you don't, they will look at you like everyone in the group, if there's an anomaly saying, I want like chicken wings or I want a different dish today, they will look at you like you're crazy.
God damn it, Phil.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you deviating from the norm? And it's wild to me. But they're not understanding. It's based on the individual power, like you were saying. Who's ever at the top of the hierarchy, they set the tone. They set the mindset of what you're supposed to think like, where. When I'm saying where, when you go to Korea, it kind of creeps me out because no one has their own fashion sense. It feels like everyone is printed from a factory and everyone has the same outfit, the same haircuts, just different colors. And I'm like, whoa, this is really weird.
Did you experience any culture shocks?
Korea, they kind of all dress the same, like not in a bad way. They all dress nice, but it's there's no uniqueness as in if you compare it to Japan.
You can get a window into a culture based on the art they make for themselves. And I love Korean film. I love the themes of revenge and guilt and class discussion. And I think the industry can afford to get away with that there. It's slightly independent. But I cannot stand Korean television. If I have to see the same Cinderella story told over and over and over,
K-dramas.
I'm going to throw chairs.
Yeah.
And the music industry, we're stuck in the 90s. Everything is a boy band or a girl band. You guys refined it up to 11, but like, where are the independent artists that they found somewhere in a coffee shop that write their own shit and keep going? And the way that the studios own the talent, it's reminiscent of Hollywood in the 20s and 30s, where they own you
Slave
instead
contracts.
of like it's just and you see this kind of aggressive capitalism and this predatory nature to make someone a star, which is becoming to look like more and more a really losing proposition. Like, who wants to sign up for that? When people still will, they'll find some suckers, but just like this entire thing belies an illness. And my theory is the illness is narcissistic personality disorder on a culture-wide scale.
You guys want to know something very
It is
interesting?
a generational and cultural pathology condensed the most in South Korea for a lot of reasons. And it's not... people are suffering from the disease regardless. I took a trip once to China, and the air was a little polluted, and
A little?
It was pretty rough. I was standing on a street,
little.
and I remember wearing the mask, and everyone's wearing the mask, and everything was red tinted.
Yeah.
I couldn't see another
Korea
street
has
light in
that
front of
too.
me, and when I lifted the mask off at night, you see this sort of this fine patina of like women's
Particle.
makeup stuck to the mask. The stain, it was red colored
yeah.
too, even. You could smell it. Some people are going to be more susceptible to breathing that in than others. They'll get more sick than others. A mental pathology that's perpetuated systemically and in the media, someone's going to get a little sick. You might get a head cold. You might find yourself fighting dirty when you fight, or being insecure and doing weird pride-based things when you are, not being able to be vulnerable, bullying or being bullied, or you might get the full-on disorder. You can be narcissistic sometimes. You can be a narcissist, and you can have a narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah.
But everyone is not unaffected.
Yeah.
And
agree.
South Korea has a lot of historical reasons for this.
Yeah.
I know the war was extremely traumatizing.
Oh, yeah.
That rapid economic growth.
Yep.
And then there were a lot of cultural things in place. The religion thing alone, I'm going to leave alone the easy point that no one does more plastic surgery than South Korea. If
We'll
I
get
have
to that
to see
on another one.
on a drama like any more cat aliens on my shows, I'm going to freak the
They all
fuck
kind of
out.
look alike, don't
They
they?
do. They all start to look the
Yeah,
same. And I
yeah.
guess the faces can handle it more. Isn't there a word for people who get too much of that shit?
성게.
Okay.
Well, it means
I bet there is.
it's called plastic surgery monster. It's shortened. yeah. 성령 괴물. It's shortened for 성령 괴물.
What the fuck is propelling these people, though? I've watched the shows, and it's like they can't fucking move their faces anymore, and their eyes all look weird,
Do
and
you know why?
they want to look like cat aliens?
No, it's because they're so skinny. There's no more collagen.
Oh,
in their
that too.
skin, but you can literally see
These fucking
Hold on.
K-pop idols who are passing out on stage because they're eating
Yeah.
an apple a day?
But they're actresses and actors, K-pop stars, when they start to hit around 30, because they are losing so much collagen. 'cause
Yeah,
they're
your
not
body's eating the collagen.
You can you can see it, like their skin is trying to stay stuck, but it just keeps drooping, and it's just like, dude, you
Skinny fat,
work
eating
out.
disorders.
Work out.
There's things that accompany personality disorders.
Yeah.
This is a safari. We're going to go on tour. You whip out your binoculars. We'll point out some predators and some things in the wild, and we're going to move on quick. Our foot on the gas. I think I already mentioned 70 people who are the Messiah coming out of your country. They learn a grift fast.
Yeah. Fun fact, I grew up in a cult.
I'd want them all to hang out one day. This is a country the size of Kentucky, by the way. In the East, the Philippines would be considered the most Christian country in the world. Of their population, by the way, the Philippines has almost twice your population. You guys are at 51 million. There are 115 million people. 115 million population, almost all Christian, 92%. There are some Muslims at like 6.5%. Some of the smaller islands, they've begun, coming in, nothing crazy. There's like other/none, which includes like indigenous religions, and there's like some Jews in Manila, and that's about it.
There's some Jews and
Yeah, a few. Yeah. We in Manila, in the city. Irreligious is 0.1%. So here's what's interesting. South Korea is second overall, way down there. There's 51 to 52 million of you, and 31%, give or take, are Christian, which is about 16 million, a little over 16 million.
Okay.
17% are Buddhist, so a little less than 9 million. And then the thing is, they say that just over half, 51%, is non-religious. Here's the thing, though. Only this isn't irreligious. It's how they report. The government is ashamed and fucking things around. So throughout the second half of the 20th century, the South Korean state enacted measures to further marginalize indigenous Korean shamanism, at the same time strengthening Christianity and the revival of Buddhism. So, according to scholars, South Korean censuses do not count believers in indigenous Korean shamanism and underestimate the number of adherents of Korean shamanism sects. Do you even know the name of what that's called?
No.
I wanted to look it up, yeah. But it's a huge religion, and it's just varied. But they're like, no, that's not anything at all.
Oh, so they don't report it?
Yeah. And then into that Christian wiggle room and into the 51% fucking indigenous, we're ashamed of our history, we have no fucking identity wiggle room are all the cults. And that's where you get, and that's where you sneak in all the fucking heresies, and you get all the weird cults and all the messiahs. I was Googling this. I was trying to take a poop like a normal person, just reading shit, and it had to attack me on the toilet yesterday. Just yesterday,
Christ.
I found out about a guy who was arrested for rape in one of the cults. And yeah, while we're
What?
doing anecdotes and stories, she was raised in a cult. Her family is part of a cult.
Wait. Who raped who?
Some other, who gives a shit? Another cult.
In
The leader got caught criminally charged for raping people.
In Korea?
Yes. Of fucking course.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Don't like that.
How about we start talking about this more?
Yep. we
Here's
need to.
your culture.
Yep, we're gonna need to.
It's like a TV show. This is us. Anyway, sorry. You have ancestor worship, which is the hierarchy again, by the way. 2% or other is like Muslims and Jews and non-believing in Korea. But they're hiding this other thing. So let's talk about your former president, who was consulting a fucking shaman.
I was going to say, yeah.
Let's talk about that.
She grew up in a cult.
Everywhere in the dramas.
Both of her parents, I believe, was assassin
That's
eyes.
terrible.
Yeah, it's really, really sad.
Well, yeah.
And so the people
you're
who
gonna
took
see
her
that
in was a
post-war
cult leader.
too, because you're at your most vulnerable. There was that rapid growth. You saw a lot of cult proliferate in the 60s in America because there was such rapid social growth and you just couldn't find time to find a foothold. You're seeing the same thing with this rapid economic growth and that people can kind of sneak in.
Yeah.
There's a lot more Protestantism in the Christian sect for Korea, which also allows that liberty to kind of offshoot a lot. You get this enterprising thing like, fuck it, I'll do my own thing. I can see the temptation from pastors like, I'm not just going to be a pastor. I'm the only God. God is talking to me or I am actually God.
God itself.
Fuck me, man.
Down. Yeah.
You fucking God.
Yeah.
It's South Korea. It's just where God just stuffed all his demons. But they're very good looking.
Demons.
So you can see it in their art. I could talk about that a bit, like the Korean dramas. Or we could see it in their sexuality. Repression, again, by the way. Japan, great with gays and the understanding of pornography and sexuality. Korea, no, we don't definitely have that.
Yep.
They definitely do have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to be reported. For example, there's no prostitution in Korea. Holy shit, is there? It's apparently huge. Let's not look bad when white people are watching.
White people are looking at you. Like, huh? White people are looking at you. Like, oh, damn. She was right. Look at all these white people looking at me. Fuck you, whitey.
So when I lived in Hawaii, I heard a saying, and it came up a bunch of times at parties and whatever. The way that you can tell the 3 East Asian cultures that live there and how they interact.
And I was just like, holy shit,
you can tell who's who based on how they give you a gift. So Chinese people, when they give you a gift, they'll say, oh, it's nothing, don't worry about it. And you'll look it up and it turns out, yeah, it was nothing, don't worry about it. They just got it like at a gas station or in an airport. There was the truth. When they tell you like, no, this is very expensive. You should be extremely gracious. This is very valuable. I did you a favor. You look it up and you're like, holy shit, did you leverage your mortgage for this?
Yeah.
They're telling it straight.
Yeah.
Japanese people, when they're like, they give you a gift, they're like, oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. You'll look it up and it's like, oh my God, it was so nice and expensive. Because Japanese people, when Koreans give you a gift, they'll say, this is the most amazing gift. You should be very grateful. It's very expensive. And you look it up.
The brand?
They got that shit at a gas station. God damn it. Everybody knows.
Or it was on like
Koreans equal
75%
liars.
sale.
Yeah. Koreans equal cheap. They don't fucking tip. Everyone knew.
Yeah.
When you're waiting tables, all Koreans. Fuck.
Yeah.
Everybody, they won't do it.
Yeah.
They're
really
just,
funny.
everyone knew. Like that was the rule. And that was before I had a whole lot of exposure. Before I met you guys. Like I was like, what is this story everyone's talking about?
And
about
then we
Korean
confirmed
people?
it to be very true.
That they're vain and materialistic and extremely
it's so
narcissistic.
true. Yeah.
Your reputation precedes you. So in addition to Korea and slavery, which is immortalized on a clip of Bobby Lee's Tiger Belly podcast.
Great stuff.
Yeah, where you have the longest running unbroken chain of slavery in world history.
We'll put that in the clip.
But some societies like Koreans, they might have a God complex, but they don't have a history of oppressing another group of people.
You don't think Asians had they didn't oppress?
Koreans didn't have slaves. We didn't fly.
Did Koreans have slaves?
Yeah, Google that.
Yeah, because I think that's fucking wrong.
Kidding
Korea
about
had
the
the
Koreans?
longest unbroken chain of slavery of any society in history, spanning 1,500 years. Fuck off.
That's not what it says. Zoom it in. My eyes are blurry.
Go
Zoom
back,
it in. Go back.
Carlos.
I want to read it. All right.
Read it out loud, you piece of shit.
Get close. All right. Korea had the longest unbroken chain of slavery of any society in history. Fuck! Holy shit!
You guys are fucking scumbags.
We could even revisit the suicide and the drinking thing and your incredible drinking problem and #1 in the world for suicides. Why we mentioned it last time, that was obviously relevant. We wanted to mention here about the poor healthcare, no therapy, or talking about it, how you can't go get help.
I would like to touch on that.
Yes. Can I? Yeah.
Yes,
you want to go
continue.
first, actually, in case that...
Well,
if it's
we're going to
fresh
revisit
and
that
hot
point.
in your mind. Okay,
yeah,
good.
we're going to revisit that point, so go for
So
it.
something that I was thinking about systemically, marijuana and Top, the actor that appeared in Squid Games.
He's from Big Bang.
He was from Big Bang. Yeah. Well, he was expelled from Big Bang because he smoked marijuana as an adult in his own home.
In Korea, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So he almost took his own life, though.
Yeah.
He almost unalived himself
Yep.
because of that kind of disappointment and everything being taken away. Psy, the musician, had the same problem.
Yeah.
They put him in jail.
Yep.
And he missed his grandfather's funeral. And that kind of informed a strange relationship he had with them. It's interesting. I don't know. He's passive aggressive. I like that. By all means, it is bad, marijuana. That's our stance here. I don't smoke. You don't smoke. We live in Colorado. We're outliers here. But it's a lesser evil. The stats speak for themselves. It is possible to die from THC.
I see what you're saying.
It's like 3 or 4 people a year. And
Yeah.
it's just like, it's a real effort compared to the tens of thousands for alcohol.
Both highly addictive.
Yeah, do not self-medicate, but I am speaking systemically, economically. If you're in charge of policy and you're thinking of harm reduction, I can speak of should and an ideal world all the time. You should let people smoke weed. Consider it a step down even.
In order for us to tackle that, I just know the stigma around
I understand.
the term drug in Korea.
Sure.
So
And yet everything's fine if it's either, say, prescription medication or you can drink yourself to death.
Yeah. We do need to educate the public, especially the Korean public, on the term drug.
I remember
and what drug use
the months that we
means.
were there, the month and a half, when I just take those walks by myself throughout the city and then just get a cab back. I've never seen that much alcohol use.
Yeah.
And also, like,
Yeah.
I told you the one time in the hotel, I went downstairs because I didn't want to poop in our own room, so I'd go poop in the hotel bathroom. That was my move. And I kicked the door open on one of the nights, a weeknight,
Yeah.
and there was a dude face planted in the urinal. His chin was resting
Yeah.
where you would kind of start to pee
Yeah.
with his hands and arms behind him. And he just kind of looked up, so sorry.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's fine, man.
Yeah. On a regular weekday.
I still went to the bathroom.
That's gross.
I still went. He's not going to care.
Yeah. A regular weekday, people will literally go to what we call a jjimjirbang, which is a public bathhouse, to take a shower and then go back to work. So they're drinking all night long and then going to a public bathhouse, take a shower, and then go back to work. It's a very unhealthy drinking culture over there.
God, I remember in your cult they kept putting everything on the devil, which is a
Yeah.
great way to not take responsibility, which is a perfect out to raise a narcissist or someone with
Exactly.
a personality disorder.
Exactly.
I remember when I used to watch dramas with you, and in addition to the kind of shows they do, I used to play this game in my head. Why couldn't they do a sort of, there'd be plenty of shows you'd see here in America that they could have done in Korea. Well-written characters. I understand there's a limitation due to homogeneity, so I'm aware of the narrative limitations the culture has in their storytelling abilities and a smaller population, meaning you're not going to have stories about racism, white and black very much, or a gay person coming out, because they won't fucking do that either.
There's some.
There are, and there should be more. It's not accepting that and exporting not themselves, but us, just overlaid by themselves, back at us. So because they're aware it's a small market, they began trying to get more of an audience, and they're appealing to Western audiences. So they're playing it safe. That's why it's shitty, like in the way that Transformers movies are shitty. You're not going to get that kind of art because the audience is already small. They can't do like Bollywood does, where the baked-in audience is there to watch, or like Japan, for example, although they still export pretty well, and it's still them. But my point is, this same Cinderella story, this kind of Korean version of telenovelas, of soap operas, over and over and over, it's a sign of no identity. You see it now because of A Mind for International Audiences, and it feels like too little too late and pandering that they're putting gay people in. Or I remember once on a drama, there was a character that was clearly a stand-in for a black guy. It was a darker Korean with dreadlocks wearing like urban stuff,
Yeah.
like FUBU.
Reggae.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, this, I see what they're doing. This is, in the 90s, you had the black friend or the
Yeah.
gay friend. And they're like, well, we got to put
For
this in now.
international appeal.
Yeah, without actually being either of those things.
Yeah.
Bullshit. And I understand, again, they're doing this, it's too little too late. And I understand the reasons for that narratively, the limitations there. But
reason-
it's still a sign of non-identity. So quick,
Yeah.
for non-Koreans, this is a fun game to play. It's a great party trick. Give me a distinctly Korean folklore or religion. A monster, the old religion, any of
They
it.
do have that.
I know. Notice how it is not aware in the zeitgeist of the world at all. We know Japanese shit all day. We know Chinese shit. We know American shit all day. Koreans don't care about it. They erase it even in themselves. So that history has been cut off. You're seeing that in the media even. That's why you're going to have narcissism when you're adopting very quickly the religion, the culture, the morality of the West that came in and moved in. And when we move in and set up shop and set up bases in your country, we don't go anywhere. We love you long time.
Yeah.
But my argument, if this would be a great essay, Korea is Africa. Korea are first world African Americans. White people moved in, cut them off from their background and history and culture, and then lost in the Nietzschean sense, they became the hyper-capitalistic country at the cost of their soul, mental illness, and sense of self. This is one of the big complaints African Americans have. We cut them off from their history.
Yeah.
And gave them a new one.
Yeah. What I was just going to add and say.
So look at what built the economy. Industry over innovation even. It's about making money. Samsung, Android over iPhone. The television and music. The argument earlier about Hollywood in the 1930s, where it's created by the studios who own you. No one's discovering an indie Korean musician who wrote their own stuff and worked their way up.
It at least is not getting exported.
This is a rough dig here, but it's another hard pill to swallow. Science goes hand in hand with accepting reality, being able to observe and measure it. This is a country that doesn't accept gay people and still does fortune telling at the high levels. So we could talk about, for example, comparative numbers of Nobel Prizes won for each country.
Yep.
China versus Japan versus Korea. For example, China and Japan sit on either side and dwarf Korea there. Korea's got 3. There are countries in Central Africa with 2.
Hey, I was kind of shocked they even had any.
Yeah, and they're outclassed by China. One's also anti-gay, China, and stifles independence. It's a communist state, which Korea has unofficial soft markers of. And the other is a capitalist society with emphasis on the group, which Korea purports to be, both outclassed. The numbers are larger in comparison. Again, the shrimp between whales. I could talk about gaming addiction among the youth there. I could talk about social media limitation among the youth there. I could talk about the increasing isolation.
Mm-hmm.
These are symptoms of narcissism.
Yeah. Just in general, when you were talking about the identity crisis that Koreans have, and it reflects truly in their arts, it's not really quite art when it comes to K-dramas. You get some bangers once in a while, but mostly they are very much by the numbers. But how can you
playing
create...
it safe.
But it's not even playing it safe. How can you create anything real and authentic when you can't feel, when you're not allowed to feel because you have to fit a mold?
Yeah, what's going to go over well instead of what do I need?
Every human is bred to be like that in Korea. And if you're told that you're wrong for feeling a certain way, for wanting the food you want to eat, and you have to follow the rules all the time, you're not going to get any kind of art ever.
I want to demonstrate a few things and do a tour from our last video, and I doubt that we'll do a tour of the comments again in such a way. Maybe we will, but either we've never had any comments before. We were just doing this for ourselves. Again, we don't care. She makes wild art. Have you seen her video on Ted Bundy?
Great video.
That is weird art. One last personal thing that I think about a lot. If you had to give a personality to a large population, and you give it a personality disorder, sort of independently, I think of North versus South Korea splitting at the war and each going their own way to the highest extreme. Is the funny thing. One country at the end of a civil war split into 2, and one became hyper-communist, the most cult of personality, the most insane country we all think of, and the other became hyper-capitalist. And they compete, and they each double down out of pride. And I think of 2 siblings that are kind of like feuding and want attention. I'm doing great. How about you? And we laugh that North Korea lies a lot.
Yeah.
But we mock North Korea for this, but South Korea is guilty of the exact same offense.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They are the exact same in my eyes.
But in South Koreans, what they actually probably take pride in that comparison is they know they're better than North Koreans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
So, but it's questionable.
Yeah, but the
Just
cultural
looks like it
history
is.
of South Korea and the laws in place now as a result, where we are today, it's wild that only, I'd say 60 years ago, that country split in 2 as we fought over the pieces and hearts and souls of all of you. We being America fighting over all of you.
Yeah.
Both examples of the most cartoonish, soul-killing examples of both models, and they're just separated by a single line. You can wave to each other and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's just it reminds me of 2 feuding siblings. I'm doing fine. How are you? Each just hiding their secrets. That is the recipe for narcissism, not just A, Like
Yeah.
if you want to open up a
Never
cookbook,
never hide your feelings and things that you're thinking, problems that you're having. It's okay to have problems.
that's Korean pride.
Yeah.
I still love that there's 70 people in a country the size of Kentucky rocking the Messiah label. Even just anecdotally, real fast, the world's largest Bitcoin scammer, Do Kwon. As a Jewish man, the joke was how even our criminals manage to somehow, in their shittiness, go above and beyond. You have Bernie Madoff and Epstein, number one. Thanks for sidling in next to them, Mr. Kwon. You know, it's not even clever. There's nothing innovating. And then just yesterday, when I was going to the bathroom, I heard about the Match.com controversy and how the CEO only cared about money and he was cutting people when it came to safety and security, especially with that guy that was going around raping women on dates. And they were trying to do something about it. And the CEO was like, nah, it was a Korean guy who just got forced to step down. And they showed a picture of an Asian guy. And I was like, no fucking way. And I was like, please, come on. And I just knew. And I paused and Googled and it was Bernard Kim. And it's like, God damn it. And just, but of course, but I hate feeling that way. I hate thinking that way. It borders on the racist, which is what some of the narcissistic people will accuse me of.
Stereotypes.
Yes, but there's none here. I had the fortune of just rattling off statistics and actual truth here.
Yeah, facts.
And it paints a picture.
Yeah.
No matter how much anyone yells, me included. God, I have notes here from like unfinished essays, like how they ape stuff. There was a rap without the background that made it. There was one guy who was wearing like a black culture jacket that was actually racist and he had no idea, but they're just aping things. It's cool. It's the equivalent of like ham sandwich in Mandarin tattooed on a white guy's arm.
Yeah. The real dangers, if we talk real quickly about the sexual repression and the harm that it creates around society with Nth Room and Burning Sun, the reason why South Korea has these kinds of extremely dark sexual violence is because they are taught, this is Confucianism. This is a part of Confucianism, the ideology around it, where it's so heavily centered around patriarchy. I don't know if you guys know this, for those who do know and those who don't know, but I am a sexual assault victim and my perpetrator is a Korean man. And I know how these men are bred to think and how what their parents instilled inside of them, those values. But these harmful sexual crimes are happening because these men feel entitled. Once they reach a certain economic status, they feel entitled to dominate women.
Well, they also feel inferior. He wasn't really entitled.
And inferior.
He lived off of his wife. He didn't have a job.
So true.
He leased a car through his sister's name, but told everyone he bought it.
Yep.
If he ever bought anything for 1x, he told everyone it cost 5x.
Yep. 20x.
He was a liar.
Yeah.
But, so there's that sense of worthlessness that propels a lot of that behavior too.
But that's narcissism. That is what creates narcissistic personality disorders, is this ever looming feeling and sensation that you are so worthless that you have to build a grandiose self, this idea that you live by. It's a fantasy world that you create. And when you feel so crushed, I guess is the right word, by society, the only pleasures you start to get, because you're always comparing against other people and you want to be this Casanova kind of vibes for all Korean men, and I think a lot of Asian men in general, you start to build this pleasure for sexual violence and domination. And I've seen that firsthand, where it drives their entire being and it gives them a thrill when you can do that to another human being. And I do think it does come from a sense of entitlement, that they have the right to take ownership of any woman they want. But I think that's where the Nth Room and the Burning Sun is coming in from. But the other really sadistic thing,
I think just in the absence of love.
Oh yeah, well, obviously that is why also narcissistic personality disorder.
Someone asked in the comments, and I may revisit this, what's the motivation behind dominance? It's when you've just given up entirely on the concept of love. It's every old married Australian tourist with a teenage bar girl on his arm in Thailand. They've just given up entirely of ever having a relationship with someone who might stand the chance of beating them at a game of chess.
Yeah. And then women start to become an accessory to show that you are worthy.
Yeah, I'll just marry someone younger and that's how I'll game the system.
Exactly. Exactly.
That was a tragedy
It is a
that was
tragedy.
allowed to proliferate. And I fucking guarantee you, they found their scapegoat. The same stuff is still going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
The industry itself has not changed. It's Hollywood in the 20s and 30s. Pass them around, drug them up, run their lives, let men have weird fantasies where they have to be single so men can still masturbate to them
Yeah.
with a clean conscience. What is your problem?
Yeah.
That is narcissism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let people be who they are. We can't accept them.
Yeah, you can't suppress who you are and the things you feel and fit a mold. Solly is the actress-singer who rose to prominence as a member of a girl group band FX, but she became well known for speaking out on mental health issues, cyberbullying, and women's rights, issues that remain sensitive in a conservative society like South Korea. The K-pop industry is well known for the pressure it puts on its idols to maintain a wholesome image, and K-pop artists are called idols in Korea, beings that must be ideal, perfect people and performers at all times, even in their personal lives. Now we're going to talk about Kuwara. Kuwara, on September 13th, 2018, her ex-boyfriend, we'll call him Choi here, broke into Kuwara's house while she was sleeping and started an argument that escalated into violent assault when he allegedly tried to break up with her. The police arrived to Kuwara's house after Choi reported her for the assault. Kuwara then claimed that the incident was two-sided, and then both parties posted images of their injuries to the internet to explain their sides of the story. On September 17th, Kuwara claimed that the fight started because of her having lunch with a male acquaintance, which ignited Choi's jealousy. After the incident, Kuwara underwent a medical examination and was found to be suffering from uterine and vaginal hemorrhage. She was also diagnosed with cervical sprain, facial contusions and sprain, lower leg contusions and sprain, and right forearm and additional sprains. Following this, Kuwara filed a lawsuit against Choi for threatening to release a sex video filmed without her consent in an attempt by him to end her career. Kuwara pursued the lawsuit despite the initial advice of her lawyers to keep things quiet to avoid public backlash. The multifaceted hate comments are a product of the expectation of women's purity and chastity that pervade South Korean society. Kuwara received relentless hate comments about her sex video after the fight with her ex-boyfriend became public. The Korean public forced her to conform to strict moral codes and devalued her public image. Her detractors would label her a terrifying personality and went on to define Kuwara as low quality. This is also really interesting analysis. The reason why there's so many constraints around idols, particularly female idols, to hide their relationships and sustain to the public a image of purity and chastity, like we've seen with Kuwara, Solly, and Kim Se-ron, it's fulfilling a male fantasy for the Korean men. Because they haven't reached this economic status, in their minds, they can build and put constraints around these women so that they can fulfill a fantasy in their mind because they're pure that one day they can dominate them, that they can have them, and they may have a chance of having a relationship with them.
Systemically, though, that's kind of how you keep people like that in line. Like
What do you mean in line?
It's fucked up. You can't thought police somebody as far as what they're masturbating to and how.
No, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But they are putting actual physical restraints around these people's lives, these females' lives, where they're not allowed to have a life.
How about you can still do what you need to do, guy, and she's allowed to date anyone she wants in public, like they see here in America, for example.
Yeah.
That's so weird. You have to preserve the idea of them when it's not even real.
But notice one of the comments.
Whether it's like an actual serial killer monster or a celebrity, your whole thing is you knock away the idea and you remind everyone it's a human being.
Yeah.
These are human beings who should be allowed to live human lives and have human thoughts and feelings, and we should understand them.
She is very problematic despite having an innocent face. Don't judge by its cover.
Ugh.
Meaning they're not allowed to have a life. They need to sustain an image of purity for and remain innocent to the public eye. They were actually really pissed that she was playing poker because it kind of like that's not innocent behavior, you know?
Yeah.
Which is really gross. But another really interesting thing, like you were mentioning, in America, We have parasocial relationships with our celebrities, but it's different in K society, right? With K netizens. The relationship that the celebrities have with their K fans, it goes beyond, right, than a normal relationship in a fandom and a parasocial relationship. Do you agree?
Yes.
If you see this relationship, it's a narcissist and a borderline relationship. They're celebrities with their fans. That's why it's so unhealthy. And when the borderline, they start to split their dominant personality, if the dominant personality does not remain like an ideal God in their minds. And so that's why they love them so much, and it's times 100, not normal love. And then they tear them down when these images are destroyed in their minds. Dear South Korea, I am a product of what you've made me, and I can honestly say that I am not proud of that. I have lived my life according to the values of competing and comparing myself to other people to always get ahead. And I've devalued human lives for capital gain and also for my own emotional satisfaction. I've always viewed people as a means to an end, to see what they can offer me, rather than understanding how to really engage with another human being. I've put my needs of survival above the needs of others, not caring or worrying about how they must feel at any given moment. I'd even go as far as to say that their feelings and their emotions bothered me and agitated me. And because of this competitive and comparative worldview, I went about living my life harming other people. And I am on a journey to find my humanity again. And on this journey, I've been met with incredible compassion, empathy, and encouragement. I've come to realize that that is the majority of the responses that human beings give to another human being. I've come to understand that I've just had a really bad sample size. And it terrified me that the world was going to point at me, laugh at me, make fun of me, and tear me down, because that was my worldview. That's what I would have done, but it didn't happen. Stuff like that doesn't happen when you're honest, when you are really honest. A handful of years back, I had a conversation with my therapist. I was so detached from myself that I couldn't understand the term's value. I can define it for you. I can maybe point it out when I see it in other people, but I couldn't define my own. I was that bad. But I realized a few days ago that in and of itself was a defense my mind built, because if I'm really being honest with myself and with you, the values that I had were of material things. And those values trumped any human life, any feeling, any satisfaction, any happiness that I can give to another person. That was not where my values lied. To be a good person, to care, to empathize, to have compassion, to learn, to build that. My values were, what can I get to survive, to make my life better over anyone else's. Of course I had values, but if I spoke them out loud, even to her, it would make me look bad. It's why I kept lying to myself. I really had no idea until I did. And I just broke down crying because I felt so much remorse that was the kind of person I was, that I am, that I valued material things over a human life, over someone's happiness, with zero guilt of using people to get what I wanted, to get ahead. My mode of operation was envy, and I'd be filled with resentment if anybody was next to me who was better than me. I'd choose to advance myself rather than supporting and helping somebody else. And honestly, I thank God that I can stand before you today to explain to you how wrong that kind of thinking is. I've worn the skin of everything that's been wrong with this world, so I can know what it feels like, so I could talk to you guys about it, and also to know what the people we were helping, what they were talking about, even the things that they couldn't actually talk about. I battle with this need to dominate, to satisfy my own emotional need, to feel better than somebody, that awful quality. I wrestle with that on a daily basis, still, because I was taught that I have no other value unless I do beat somebody surrounding me. That everything has to be an external competition rather than a rich internal world. I need to show you guys something. Will you read?
Yeah, of course. Do you want it to be in your voice when it pops on, actually?
No, because I can't read.
Okay. That'd be fun if you actually leave that and say that. This is a comment taken from an article where Kim Se-ron was spotted with friends at a gambling pub. This is who she is. She doesn't care about others and drive while drunk. She fakes stories for her to gain popular opinion. She likes socializing this way, always with alcohol, and she doesn't seem to care anymore. Why are people still expecting her to conform to their standards when she clearly wants to do it her way? I love the other backup comment, though. Like socializing this way, always with alcohol. That's literally the entire South Korean society. This is why. I get it. She has a problem. But she knows she's going to get crap about whatever she does, so why bother? Didn't even bother to hide behind a mask. Gambling with what money? I thought she was broke. Has she never heard of saying out of sight, out of mind? K-Nets will have a field day with this again. Tisk, tisk, tisk. So you want her to never leave her home and become depressed to the point of suicide? I'm not even surprised. The inconsistency and shamelessness of this girl is too outrageous. Well, she was a good actress. Shame it was short-lived. I'm guessing she's accepted her career is over and is just going about her life as she wishes. Either that or she has no idea what laying low until the heat blows over actually involves. Granted, what she was doing at the pub isn't illegal. It's just a bad look for a celebrity accused of DUI. She is very problematic despite having an innocent face. Don't judge by its cover. Now I will forgive the broken English. I'm sure they'd forgive.
Yeah.
But she's dirt broke, right? Don't you guys see how bad her money problems are? She doesn't have chips on her table. Oh, the misery that she must be going through. Let's create a GoFund collection for her. Lol. Is it really that hard to wait until her trial ends? I've been broke and gone gambling. I used to go every weekend. I used to even pay bills. It could be as cheap as a movie. She's trying to have a good time, and it's hard. And people are judging her. I guess the argument is that she's spending money she doesn't have if she's broke. Do you know how many broke people still go gambling to try and have a good time with friends? Fuck her, I guess.
It's just kind of gross. Like one of the comments were saying, is she not allowed to leave her house?
Should she just be...
It's just like, should she die in a hole in a cave now?
They'll make the same argument if she's seen at a restaurant or out having drinks or, I
Yeah.
thought you're broke. Like,
Yeah.
you can't even...
Stop
it's the
living a
exact
life.
same thing.
Yeah.
It's how much you... Anyway.
Yeah.
I've been broke and I've gone playing poker on weekends. I waited tables and every weekend I'd go play poker. Keep going?
This is now, after she passes away.
Those K-Nets that pushed this poor girl to her death because of cyberbullying and cancel culture, I hope you never sleep at night. Rest in peace, beautiful Se-ron. I hope you realize that there are a lot of people who believe that you were a good person despite your mistake. No more suffering now. Heaven gained a beautiful angel. Angel wing emoji. Her whole life was screwed up by the Korean entertainment industry. It is absolutely disgusting. Everyone should be ashamed, from K-netizens to her management and even her co-stars. She was an immensely talented actress. I have never seen a child portray such raw emotion. Like Miley Cyrus, she went a bit off the rails. Yet unlike her, Korean culture blacklisted, bullied, and abused her, never once giving her the help she needed. Every death is a tragedy, but between Lee Sung-kyun last year and now this, the industry is practically guilty of murder. Stop it, Korea. Start taking care of your young actors. Birthday present for Kim Soo-hyun. There must be reason for it. Oh, and that society is disgustingly disgusting. R.I.P.
Disgustingly disgusting.
Come on. I really dislike those K-Nets. Why are they so horrible? And how do they get away with it? Do these people's precious life mean nothing to them? It's so sad. Stop the cyberbullying, Korea. Start paying attention to the mental health of your people. Something is terribly wrong when actors of her caliber are dying so young. Rest in peace, Kim Se-ron. You did not deserve to be treated the way those POS treated you. Also to the person who is disliking people's comment for showing compassion and or speaking against the trash that is K-Nets and the situations that lead to the death of yet another young person with their whole life to live, you're a sad POS and may something horrific come your way. Looking at you, Kinbop. No. Kinbop, I'm disliking because you crazies are jumping to blame K-Nets. You people have no respect. Someone just freaking died and you're well into jumping on the blame game already. Ah, too young to die. Now be happy, Koreans. She's finally gone from the face of the earth. You punished this girl far too much for her one mistake, which she was regretful, sincerely, but you canceled her, teased her, harassed her, and never forgave her. So sorry, Se-ron. My dear, rest in peace now. The comments in some of the old articles pertaining to her on this site have aged poorly. You guys killed her. Congrats. The turn's always too late until after somebody dies.
Yeah. My fellow human beings, I think we can collectively say that we are not proud of this, that we shouldn't be proud of this.
Then why are we repeating the exact same mistake now?
저를 협박하면서 거짓을 사실이라고 인정하라는 강요를 받아들일 수 없었습니다. 여러분들이 가장 궁금해하시는 부분에 대해 말씀드리겠습니다. 저는 고인이 미성년자이던 시절 교제를 하지 않았습니다.
This man is denying because he is fighting for his life.
We're doing it again. You're doing it again. We won't look with compassion until after you've killed the monster.
And every person has a reason for their behaviors. Something happened to them, and he is no exception. Why is he fighting for his life? How do we know this? It's because there's something we can't face. And it's the fact that we are all the same.
You animals are no better.
No. Take a look at these people. Kim Se-ron's aunt in the interview said,
이날도 사실 자해를 했어요.
아유.
그때는 제 딸이 그때 같이 있었기 때문에 왜냐면 세론이를 혼자 둘 수가 없었어요.
네.
진짜 엄마는 24시간 동안 붙어 있지. 정신병원에 좀 입원 좀 시키지 왜 안 시켰어? 이렇게 얘기하는데요. 아, 진짜 말 이거 다 할 수가 없어요. 24시간뿐만 아니라요. 어떻게든 얘 혼자 있으면 혹시 또 그럴까 봐 진짜 붙어갖고 엄마가 그냥 차에서 그냥 밤새 대기하고 있고 그냥 잠깐이라도 얘 어떻게 잘못될까 봐 얼마나 진짜 노심초사하면서 세론이 지키려고.
Why didn't we admit her in a mental hospital? Why didn't she get any professional help? And it's very clearly laid out that they are not allowed to do that. Seol-lee, who was very vocal about mental illness or trying to not be in a mold and live her life and be herself, was not allowed to, which caused her to suffer from mental illness.
Didn't they
depression.
both unalive themselves? Both
yes,
of those? God.
Kuwata, and they were both really good friends.
I saw that in the comments, right, within a month of each other.
Yeah, and then Kuwata, if she's a human being in a relationship, was a very toxic relationship, and she's opening up about it, she's not allowed because you're getting comments like you're low quality. And when they're using the word low quality, they're in terms calling her a prostitute, in a sense. You know, there's that undertone. And it's really gross that they are not allowed to be people. And they get that message loud and clear. Yes, they do. That's why she could not go get help, because if she did, there'd be comments on that. But these are real problems. These are very much real people with real problems. And because South Korea, Koreans are not allowed to have issues with mental illness, that's why you're getting stats like this. Bernard Kim, Match.com guy, and the largest Bitcoin
This feels
scam.
like the solid foundation for the drinking culture, because you can drink here and get things off your chest where you're not judged because the other person is drunk too.
Yeah. The perpetrator, my sexual assault perpetrator, he was an alcoholic, and he would tell me, and he would say this from the chest, I don't trust anyone who doesn't drink. I know why. It's because they're so ashamed if no one's drinking with them, if they accidentally reveal something about themselves, because it suppresses their inhibitions. So whatever slips, that's going to be a problem for them.
You can't make me feel
Don't
bad about
judge
that
me.
thing I said when your pants were around
Yeah.
your ankles and you fell in the bushes.
Oh my God.
It's us both. We're the same together.
Be horrible with me.
Yeah.
Show yourself with me.
Everything I said, and the thing about narcissism in general, we're of the belief that you can be redeemed. It doesn't mean run away from them.
Yeah, no.
You have to acknowledge first.
Yeah.
Just no narcissist ever feels comfortable coming forward as one. And then that's how you actually get them to go away. That's how you get it to stop.
You have to take a look at the thing that is so uncomfortable, the thing that hurts the most in order to heal it.
Kim Soo-hyun's not any different than the rest of his culture. He could just act on it. That's the thing. Everyone is calling for his death.
Yeah.
And by the way, just do it. Just say, go kill yourself. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Just own that, sit with it at night, and know that you said that shit and hoped it would happen.
Take responsibility.
And that you wanted that to happen.
Exactly.
Don't deny it and step back that extra degree.
Take responsibility for how you're feeling, because once this happens and then suddenly people are like, oh my God, that one guy with the comment with him saying, I'm disliking your guys' comments because no one's taking responsibility. And I'm here today. I am somebody who could have taken responsibility. We collectively did that to that girl because no one stepped up. There are 2 interviews that I need to show you guys.
Do you feel that the people that commit these crimes, especially repeat offenders that maybe have narcissistic or psychopathic traits, can they be rehabilitated or can that behaviour change?
Psychopaths cannot be rehabilitated. There is nothing currently that works to treat them or rehabilitate them. Now, the psychiatrists and psychologists who work within the settings where there are psychopaths like Levi Bellfield, they would argue that we just haven't found what works. So we shouldn't stop trying to find what works. But how do we teach empathy? How do we teach compassion?
You really have to spend quite a lot of time talking to people before you can kind of get at the states of mind that lead to causing great cruelty and harm to others.
What happens in the sessions in your therapy room?
Well, the therapy sessions that happen in a prison or a secure hospital are pretty much like therapy sessions anywhere. If you're at the beginning of therapy, you're often having conversations that get people used to the process of talking about themselves, and that can take a while. Many people I meet are not accustomed to talking about themselves at all. Many people I meet at the beginning of therapy have never really thought about their minds and feelings as something they could talk about. So often the beginning of therapy is just getting that laid down. And then we move in often to talking about how they come to be, either in hospital or in prison.
You've worked at Broadmoor for a large part of your career. What types of patients do you normally come across?
You can't get admitted to Broadmoor unless you've carried out the kind of violence that's very frightening and disturbing to other people. And we see a lot of people who've killed family members when they were mentally ill. And I worked a lot with people who'd killed in that way. And in fact, together with some excellent colleagues of mine, we set up a therapy group for people who killed, which was called, not very imaginatively, a homicide group. And our homicide group met every week to allow people to come and talk about their experience of having killed and what it had done to their lives and what they felt about it now and the impact it had made on not only, of course, the people that they killed, but their extended family and friends and the loss of their own life from the past. One of the things that our people are often preoccupied by is what makes them different from soldiers. We see soldiers as kind of licit and even admirable people because of the social context. But when people who are mentally ill kill, then they are seen as being monsters or weird or bad. And that kind of stigma around killing, I think, is very hard to live with. And it's not that people try and kind of see themselves as victims. They don't. But they do sometimes struggle with the sense of being hated. They're all sad stories. I mean, they're all really sad stories. That's why it's never about evil. It's about sadness, really, and grief. That some people don't get the treatment that they need until they've done something awful and horribly violent. That if only they got the treatment before, they might not be in this situation. I think the most disturbing people I meet are the people who deny any responsibility for what they've done and blame other people. So they don't really, if only somebody had helped me properly. It's more about, I'm a good person, the victim was a bad person, these kind of things. I think those are the cases which I find disturbing, because it's hard to know how to engage with people who are in denial of reality. And I have to say, some perpetrators of serious violence have experienced terrible violence themselves as children. So who's to say, if I'd been through what they'd been through as a child, and if I'd had serious addiction problems and developed serious mental illness, who's to say that I might not have killed somebody too? So I kind of start from the position that I may have more in common with this person than first appears.
Our goal, and I hope with everything that I am, that we can be united in this goal as human beings collectively and together, that we want to abolish the stigma and the shaming around people who may have unhealthy thoughts and feelings. Because as you looked at the interview, our forensic psychiatrist, Gwen, she's mentioning these problems probably didn't have to happen. And it's really unfortunate that it happens after the matter of fact, when they can finally talk about these feelings that they were having. Because most people don't know that they can share this, because we as a culture shame them. We're shaming these thoughts that people have and these feelings that people feel. And we are on the train here that our thoughts and our feelings don't have to lead to action. And we collectively, as human beings on this planet, should want to prevent any more harm that our society is creating.
And that our actions don't necessarily make who we are. You can change them.
Yes.
I want to point out here, I had a lot of countertransference going on. I am still very emotionally upset. I grew up with you watching what your mother did to you and what your perpetrator did to you, and then in turn, what you did to other people.
Yeah.
And I see it here. And just because you chastise behavior, that person can still own it and change, and narcissists should not be hunted down. I'm not reducing anybody if they're narcissists. My joke about where God stuffed all his demons, I just think it's funny that it's also a country that says they're God's chosen people. This is coming from a Jewish man, and I can't even say that thing from the chest. That level of narcissism can still exist, and people can suffer from it, either by having the disorder or those who suffer from those who do have the disorder. And it's so tricky because we need to have sympathy for human beings who have something that have happened to them, even as we see what looks like them causing harm.
Yeah.
If they catch it, they'd be as horrified as we are when they realize it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't know. I was going through this. This has been really hard. It's a lot to shoulder and carry.
The forensic psychiatrist, when she speaks with her clients who are mostly murderers, it's never about evil, she says, right? It's always something really sad, and it's about grieving because something happened to them as a child. Something very dangerous happened to them. And so we repeat these behaviors. And it's really interesting when she talked about the stigma around killing, like the killers themselves don't really understand why there's a positive reinforcement for soldiers. But when it comes to killing in general, like for them, they don't get it? No. Because in the interview, they say they know they've done wrong. They're not saying that they're victims.
I see.
But it's just, they're so scared of how they're perceived as monsters.
Oh, they're going to be hated.
Yes.
They're going to be hated.
Yeah. But that's the issue.
As human beings, fame is starting to twist into a different direction, but I see it coming out in this direction due to social media, which has its own problems. But we will start to actually accept human beings, I think, at some point.
We're hoping.
We have clients who are pedophiles,
yeah,
hebephiles, sexual assaulters, sexual assault victims and survivors.
Yep.
And we see them all the same.
Yeah.
They all are people who have incredible shame and have done something they're ashamed of, but are afflicted by something that happened to them.
Yes.
It's just not fair.
Yes.
We just cannot accept people for who they are.
Correct. There's a really sad story. I was listening to a lecture on narcissists, a woman who was raped by her father at a really young age. And she went on I believe, trying to like burn down her apartment complex building. And they put her in a mental hospital, but she's somebody who is cutting her fingers off.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, she was cutting her fingers off, and she uses gloves now to touch her body, like her body in general. She's never had any other sexual relationship, and she's just so angry. She's angry at the world, clearly. She's angry that her mother didn't protect her. She's angry with her father for doing that to her. But that's what...
Are we sure we're still talking about her at this point? Because that sounds a lot like you.
I have my fingers. Yeah. But I just know when we talk about Burning Sun and Nth Room, it's sexual assault is probably the most... It's the next worst crime to murdering somebody, I believe. Because these people, I mean, I know for a fact
The body
you're
keeps
hardly
moving,
alive.
but the soul's gone.
Yeah, you're
You've
not
killed them.
alive.
You have effectively killed them.
Yeah. But we need to collectively start having these conversations and getting rid of stigma so that people can open up about their problems.
It's so tricky because once you've done something you think is too shameful or monstrous, you'll never accept it because you know other people won't accept you. And it goes backwards. If you can accept other people, you teach them to accept themselves, and the bad behavior actually dries up and stops.
Yes. This is why we believe on this channel that healed people can actually heal people. Because I'm somebody who's on that journey right now. And
Let's
it is
see
possible.
if we can collectively learn to understand and forgive people, even and especially when they are celebrities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Anyone, any human being. We have to have these conversations, and it's uncomfortable topics and issues. You can see in a movie called The Voices, it stars Ryan Reynolds, and I know you guys are hating on him, but this movie is phenomenal. It is a really good, it's a great movie.
Hot take, it's one of his best.
It's one of my favorite movies. It performed poorly financially and through ratings, but you can see and understand the psychology of our society that we don't want to understand mental illness.
It's an uncomfortable subject.
Yeah. It's so relatable, though, the way he did it. Yeah. And just like the forensic psychiatrist said, after interacting with all of these people who've murdered, if you hear their stories, you kind of sit and you wonder if there's a difference between them and her. And I agree. Is there a difference? Is there really a difference between me and that person if I live that experience, if I've had that pain? I really don't think so. Yeah.
That's what fiction's for.
Yes.
The human mind loves stories.
Yes.
Right after food and shelter,
Mhm.
the first thing a human being asks for is tell me a story. And it's to learn something, a part of life that you can't directly live.
Yeah.
God, that movie is good.
Yeah, this movie is about a man who's suffering from, would you call it schizophrenia?
Yeah.
Yeah, schizophrenia. And he hears voices and he commits murders.
Grisly discovery Tuesday near Milton of an unidentified female stabbing victim has local police on the hunt for a serial killer.
Jerry, you're a serial killer.
Sheriff Weinbacker.
No, he isn't.
Now, with the aid of the FBI, we have developed a profile of the unknown killer. Male, late 20s or early 30s, white, lower middle class, trouble fitting in.
That's you, Jerry. Can I have an autograph? Shh.
Will he kill again?
Well, if it's not stopped soon, every indication is he will kill again.
You hear that, punk?
No.
You're a killer.
God.
A serial killer.
I don't want to be a killer.
Too late, shitbag. There's no turning back. You're a stone-cold murdering maniac.
It's so good at showing how a human mind and a human soul can get contorted and leads to pretty horrific actions.
The character doesn't want to be ill.
Headaches. Trouble sleeping. Suicidal impulses. Do you hear voices?
I hear your voice now.
Disembodied voices. Voices that seem to be coming from somewhere else.
Not really.
Jerry, do you find yourself crying a lot lately?
No.
No? Are you still taking the medication?
Usually.
You have to take it every day without fail.
I know.
But what?
The medication, it smooths things out. And that's okay, right? But even though there were bad moments,
Very bad moments.
very bad, there are also moments of inspiration and beauty when all the world makes sense. And the elegant secret mechanics of man and God are revealed in their many dimensions, and the universe is laid out before mine eyes, and it is a blessed place.
You totally stopped taking the pills, didn't you?
No, who wants? Hey, I have all these disorders. You really think I want to be mentally ill? No. But when I can look at it, I can finally stop it and heal it and understand it.
Why do I hear voices?
Oh, a lot of people hear voices. Or thoughts they can't stop.
A lot of people?
Yeah. It might be a voice telling them they're worthless or stupid, or it could tell them to indulge every desire. Drink that drink, take that drug, follow every sexual impulse, or it could be a cynical voice telling them nothing matters, that their efforts are insignificant.
You hear stuff like that?
Yeah, I have thoughts. Not exactly the same as you, but similar. They tell me that I'm fat, or psychotherapy is not a worthwhile exercise, that is not real, that I should have aimed higher than a government job, that my potential is being squandered, that I'm unworthy of love.
But none of that's true. So what do you do about it?
Well, I can't shut them off entirely. Nor would I want to, but I can't argue against them. Just because you have thoughts doesn't mean you have to act on them.
You don't have to act on them?
No. Being alone in the world is the root of all suffering. But Jerry, you're not alone.
These things exist in our world. One of our catchphrases during the assisted therapy days and the trip days was, how much truth can you hold?
Yeah.
These things happened. You can understand them from every angle. How much of it can you hold?
Yeah.
Some people can hold more than others.
Yeah.
If we're absolutely honest with ourselves, every single person wrestles with mental illness.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know,
It's what makes us human.
You know what makes South Korea the worst? It's because they can't admit that they are flawed and have emotional and mental problems. And when you can't look at it and you're pretending to be perfect, that shit's gonna bubble over. That's why you get Nth Room. That's why you get Burning Sun. That's why you get so many celebrities committing suicide. That's why you get a group of Korean people just
Suicide
asking.
rates not good enough. Plastic surgeries, cults.
Yeah.
Let's go. It's a shared experience that allows us to empathize with the hardships of others.
Film does that. Us being able to tap into this part of ourselves to look at what Jung calls our dark side, to integrate that dark side, because everyone has them.
We all have weird ideas or thoughts, or even, heck, especially urges and temptations.
Yeah. And it's okay as long as you don't act on them. But that's how we can prevent, as society, murders, stalking, suicide, everything that's wrong, raping, everything that's wrong in our society, if we're allowed to open up about them, because some of us have really fucked up childhoods, or some of us faced incredible trauma throughout our lives, you start to repeat really unhealthy cycles. But we have to be able to look at it instead of pointing at myself. And it's a narcissistic personality disorder. It's actually pretty interesting. It's a self-hating disorder because you feel disgusting feelings and you can't believe you think a certain way or have a certain feeling. You start to hate yourself for it. And then you push out all these negative emotions. And when you push emotions out, instead of accepting, understanding, empathizing, and loving yourself, you're gonna fuck something up. It's gonna show in your life.
It drives them at the same time, though. They tend to want to accomplish a lot because they need other people to validate their idea of themselves.
Yep.
Get that audience.
Yep. That's why South Korea, you guys are the worst country this world has ever known. You're the sickest country in the world with the sickest people.
The most narcissistic society to ever exist.
The disorder has just saturated the population.
It's almost fully saturated
Yeah.
the population. So then why is Kim Soo-hyun supposedly lying and denying?
Because you guys prove to him he needs to.
He's not allowed to be less than perfect. He's not allowed to be flawed and have a problem like a lot of you do.
Yeah.
He is a product of his environment right along with you. Those calling for his blood wish they could have done the same thing.
Yeah. That's why I'm coming forward with such a highly stigmatized disorder and with a Korean face and telling you it's okay to come forward. It's okay to have been a piece of shit, because that doesn't mean you have to continue to be a piece of shit, that we can all recover from something awful that we've done, because mistakes make human beings. Flaws make human beings. And I am on a journey because I had these fucked up ideals that I needed to be really perfect and that I had to be really flawless, that if I saw anything that was less than this ideal of myself, I would push anything negative out, which is not a person. That is not a human experience. A human experience is beautiful because you are flawed, because we make mistakes, and because we can go through a journey of feeling remorse and guilt and wronging a party and really going and apologizing to that party. What you guys are doing to Kim Soo-hyun right now, I mean, there was an article that K fans are going, they're mad at Im Siwon and IU, and then there was like another guy. I can't remember. Anyways, I'll post the thing. But anyways, Im Siwon was forced basically to unfollow 87 accounts, including Kim Soo-hyun's, because K fans were angry that these people were still, quote unquote, I guess, supporting him. But the actions that you guys are demanding of other people, the level you are isolating Kim Soo-hyun. You are ostracizing Kim Soo-hyun. You are shaming him and telling him he should not be hanging out with anybody, that he should not have a life, that he deserves to die and crawl in a cave alone.
Yeah. So there's a famous argument, stupid or evil? Do they know what they're doing and they can't admit it, like a latent unconscious drive? Or are they really this dumb, but just say you want him to kill himself? Actually take the responsibility for that.
Because what is this behavior?
When we talked about the narcissists from our previous episodes, we were talking about you. Anyone who commented, just shoulder that responsibility that you want him to kill himself. Just say it outright.
Yeah,
either
just
you
say
really
it out
don't
loud.
know that's what you're doing when you're asking him to isolate himself and you're using that shame bullet, in which case you have no choice now because someone, God, I hope this gets out. You guys just want clicks and views. Everybody wants clicks and views. The difference is, do you stand behind what you said? Do you think it's true? Are you proud of what you did? Is there... I'm losing my own train of thought.
He was angry.
All right.
But you guys should take responsibility. Say it out loud. And then feel what that feels like when you say it.
Yeah, join him in being a bad guy.
Yeah, but
Now,
no,
you
really,
were hoping someone would die too. That's what you're doing.
really feel it.
Or balk at it. Maybe you'll be horrified if we point this out, and you'll change your tune.
Check your values, because like I said in the beginning, my values, if I spoke it out loud, oh, dare I speak that out loud? Oh my God, I'm such a piece of shit. Bring that to your conscious awareness and maybe say, fuck, I might be a piece of shit, because those behaviors that you guys are demanding of other people to isolate and ostracize him is asking for somebody to unalive themselves. What else would those actions be? I'm curious.
We're going to be pretty consistent, which means we're going to be predictable a lot in future episodes. But nobody should harm anybody else. No one should ever lose their life. This is a standard across the board. There should not be an exclusion.
No. I want to show you guys this clip.
I gotta get it done. I've had people telling me, I've had a lot of advice. Don't talk about it. You don't have to talk about it. It's done. Legal advice. Don't talk about it. You open yourself up. The most important advice I've gotten is from women that I respect, that do what I do, that are respected, and that spoke to me privately and said, if you're true to your word and you are sincere about how you want to be part please talk about how you've been part of the problem. That's truly the most helpful thing you can do. Please appreciate, if you're listening to me, that the tightrope I have to walk here is I want to make this a normal part of the process, because it should be healthy and easy and graceful. It should be a thing that can be done and doesn't have to create civil war and hysteria. That doesn't make people get re-victimized and attacked. You're not doing me any favors at all. You're only hurting everybody, especially me, if this topic causes you to attack anybody involved. You may think it's in my defense. You may think it's in defense of fairness. I ask you to think about what you think fair is.
We're asking the audience members, anyone who sees this and comes across this, we need your help in order to make change. It's the only way that's possible. Because like Dan Harmon said, it should be a normal part of the process.
A thing that can be done without it creating a civil war and hysteria that doesn't make people get re-victimized and attacked. Someone should feel safe enough to come forward to apologize. What you were watching was an apology done right.
Mm-hmm. Because he was a problem. He was contributing to a problem, and now he wants to be a solution. I contributed to a problem, and now I'm trying to make amends, and I want to be somebody who provides a solution to this. I apologize, because I really fucked him up. Fucked him over often.
On the first podcast, I think it was the Blake Lively piece, I have a bruise on my cheek from when you socked me in the fucking face. It was an accident. We were sparring. It's a gym thing, but it was
me looking bad.
No, I know, right? Dinner was cold, and it wasn't healing fast enough. You're like, fuck it, just get on air.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
To that point too, you're seeing that problem over here at home. You're seeing everyone attack Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. They saw them attack someone. That's what they think. But there's a lot that you don't know.
Yeah, you guys should watch my that piece.
We agree with some of these commenters. There are things we don't know about people. They're going through it.
Yeah, and sometimes the
Give
person
them a
themselves
chance.
don't know.
They themselves wouldn't know, and when it's brought to their attention, they'd be horrified.
Yeah.
You don't know the pressures they're under, what contracts they signed, what they have to hide in order for us to accept them, which sucks.
Just like the forensic psychiatrist said, most of these people, after they committed murder, then they start talking about things, childhood traumas and traumas in general. After incidences that occurred to me, that's when I figured out that I had a personality disorder, because the situation I was in and that I put myself in was not normal. And any human being would just be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I felt too afraid and too ashamed to speak this out loud. And that's when he helped me and my therapist helped me. But it's shame that does it. It's shame.
It was a sparring accident that got out of hand. I turned my attention for something and she just kept going because she has the coordination of a drunken raccoon. That's all. It was.
That's not
yeah, I
true.
should have.
It was intentional. You watched that mouth. Okay, I wrote this statement in Korean, so this is addressed to the Korean public and Kim Soo-hyun. Kim Soo-hyun 씨, 당신과 나는 다르지 않습니다. 어떤 상처를 안고 살아왔는지는 모르겠지만 우리는 같은 충동을 느끼는 사람입니다. 저도 타인을 억누르고 지배를 해야지 속이 시원하는 사람입니다. 대한민국 여러분, 우리가 보고 자라온 것들, 배운 것들이 우리를 인간 쓰레기로 만들었습니다. 쓰레기를 치울 수 있는 방법은 단 하나뿐입니다. 쓰레기를 보고 치워야죠. 저와 함께 한을 맺혀서 쓰레기를 치웁시다. 건강하고 행복한 대한민국을 만들어 갑시다. We need to start doing this collectively as a society. We need to start to accept other people.
We can accept when someone we admire has done something wrong. We can hold that reality without needing to deny it. That's why they think they need to deny it. We aren't letting them show us that they know. They think it's for us, this act, this front they have to do. And it probably is. But we shouldn't be that fragile, and we shouldn't ask them to be.
It actually absolutely is, because we have to put them in a box.
Yeah. Being vulnerable is the opposite of being fragile.
Yes. You think it's the opposite. I mean, that's what creates the disorder. Your mind literally can't accept vulnerability because it protects against it because it feels too bad.
We can make this conscious effort to not judge and throw rocks at someone, to not wish someone ill will or harm. We can give them a chance to heal, to grow, to change their mind, to make amends for the harm they've caused, to talk about how they've contributed to a problem and now they can be a solution to it. I ask to make more allowances for humanity in others when you instinctually want to harm them. Even after you've seen them cause harm, we have to stop and understand first. On the long term, systemically, that will solve more harm. Kim Soo-hyun, hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Perfectly.
I may always mingle it. I will be your friend.
Me too.
I will listen to you.
I will too.
I will accept you.
I've already did.
I'm sorry your people suck.
I'm sorry people suck.
I'm sorry people suck. I wish I could have said that exact same thing to those that I no longer can.
We need to stop this. But we can't do it alone.
It
Kim and
would
I.
have been nice if someone had said this to Kim Se-ran. And all of those before her.
Mhm.
So next week, we'll do what we promised we would do this week, and we'll actually keep things a little bit lighter by looking at a number of reality TV shows.
We're going to dissect narcissism and we're going to show you what it looks like in real life.
More fun, bite-sized versions of narcissism. This will be much cleaner, much easier to digest, which is what we want for our audience.
Yep.
See you next time.